Welcome to Power Down, Truths, Myths, and Wonders of Decarbonization. I'm your host, Bill Kenworthy, and it's my pleasure to guide you through the intricate world of sustainability energy solutions. In this podcast, we delve into the essential strategies for achieving energy efficiency, resilience, and decarbonization. We'll navigate the rapidly evolving landscapes of technology, policy, and financial markets, and reveal how these elements impact decision-making at the highest levels. Join us as we explore the truths that guide us, debunk the myths that hinder us, and marvel at the wonders that inspire us. Welcome to Power Down, Truths, Myths, and Wonders of Decarbonization. Joining us today is Randy Clark, Executive Vice President at the Efficiency Network, known as TEN, a trailblazer in as-a-service solutions. Randy's career in the energy sector has been dynamic and impactful. He's played a pivotal role in guiding organizations into groundbreaking, complex, yet elegant structures that address resilience, savings, and decarbonization. Beyond his deep expertise in energy and structuring, Randy could teach a masterclass on trust building, preparation, and change management required to help buyers activate such programs. Randy, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill, and thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you. Now you're working at the Efficiency Network. You've joined that team maybe a year ago officially. Is that right?
Yes, I joined the team in May of 2023 after spending 25 plus years of my career with another energy efficiency organization.
And TEN is a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania-based firm, and I know you serve a lot of different industries and market segments. So what do you focus on? What does the rest of the company and team focus on?
The energy service company, or ESCO market, is aggregated by large multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations, of which TEN is not one. TEN is a mid-market company based in the Mid-Atlantic and largely focused on municipalities, universities, schools, hospitals, with the changing dynamics in energy efficiency and incentives and legislation. We're expanding beyond that to also serve commercial and industrial.
Knowing that TEN's history is in Pittsburgh, you reference them in the Mid-Atlantic. So what's the team's geographic coverage? What are some market segments that you and others go after?
So headquartered in Pittsburgh, offices in both Harrisburg and Philadelphia, and then recent hires in leadership, both in the DC metro area and myself in Richmond, recognizing that to grow, one growth strategy is geographical expansion. So certainly covering not only Pennsylvania, but DC, Maryland, Virginia. We're highly focused right now on governmental sectors, private, higher education, and healthcare.
An ideal customer, if they said, hey, I have an infrastructure problem, a resilience problem, they would call TEN, and you could be a turnkey provider?
Yes, in a combination of services that we offer, the design, the build, the operate, the maintain, and then increasingly we look at financial solutions, which involve partnering with other equity investor developers in order to offer that kind of complete turnkey package to the customer.
So you worked for 25 years somewhere else. True or false? You led teams there, specifically had direct reports.
Yes, absolutely true.
And right now you get to enjoy being a leader, but a single individual contributor?
Yes, for me, it's exciting. I led a team that had a several $100 million a year P&L and 100 plus people in my past incarnation. What I found is, as I thought about kind of my career and where I ended up, is I ended up managing and leading people, but I ended up not working on projects anymore. One of the things I actually really enjoy is working with customers on projects and structuring things and producing wins for customers. And so when I made the decision for my next chapter, my decision was I wanted to work back on projects again. So yes, I landed here and I'm very much enjoying it.
One of the things I observed from you in the opening was around your awareness of change management and what it takes to have buyers go for the things they need and truly want. One of the truths, if we think about the podcast here, Truths, Myths, and Wonders, I find that change management, getting buyers to take on the projects, is often where things slow down or fail. Do you agree that's a truth? And how do you and the team members at TEN go on the journey with customers?
I do agree that's a truth. The old saying was, nobody ever gets fired for do nothing, right? So people can carry on in their careers. They can manage a a university or a hospital. They can do the best they can with the budget they have, all of which is fine. But we work with customers to build trust and trust in our technical and financial capabilities. And in building that trust, help them make usually a once in a career large dollar decision to invest in their facilities for the purposes of efficiency, resiliency, or decarbonization. So I think it is definitely a truth that that's the crux of the sales and development effort, is to earn the trust of those customers to walk them through what is often a once in a career project.
Do you have systems or philosophies around trust building?
The main thing I always try to reflect when talking to a customer is, what would I do if it were my money? And I don't want to ask a customer to do anything that I wouldn't do if it were my money.
How do you take on the do nothing paradigm? Do you tell stories around what happens if deferred maintenance accumulates into a catastrophic condition?
In almost every case, you have to find what that single motivating factor is for people to take action. In some cases, it is, I have my technical lead at my campus and they're getting ready to retire, and I'm concerned that my organization just doesn't have the capabilities to carry on. In other situations, it might be, we've made this climate commitment and we don't know how we're going to get there. We don't know how to make that journey without someone walking side by side. Motivators are different for different people, but without that specific motivator to take action, do nothing is a serious competitor.
That's brilliant. And being able to triangulate what that factor is for each of your stakeholders is key, in my opinion. And you need to be curious and open as you engage them to identify those things.
And that to me is a really key word, curiosity. And without that, you don't diagnose the challenge correctly. So having curiosity and open ears and willing to listen to people as they tell you they may give you a high level problem, but really, if you have the curiosity to dig deeper, you tend to get greater insight as to what the real problem is and how to solve it for them. As a young man, I was willing to work with customers and make proposals and practice and kind of hone my craft. After you've done that for 25 or 30 years, you tend to want to kind of cut to the chase and take action. That actually provides a freedom in communicating with customers, knowing that you have the confidence that you can help them in a way that they haven't even asked for.
I also know you are almost always dealing with the C-suites as part of the process and early on.
Yes, for energy infrastructure and efficiency and decarbonization projects, rarely have found that process fails because the team can't find the right technical solution. Almost always, the question is, can you structure it in a way financially that's palatable to the financial leadership and to the presidents of organizations? And so I'd rather have those conversations first as the qualifier, knowing that we can solve the technical later.
Observing how you do that intersection of what's the technical solution and what are the motivating factors, certainly at the C-suite, is one of the strengths as we have worked alongside of you. Do you think presidents and boards contemplate different things than CFOs?
Years ago, absolutely. Presidents and boards were more visionary. CFOs were more financially practical. However, things have changed and decarbonization has taken over as a criteria that is more important than pure financials with CFOs. That's only happened because of the capital markets. It is client stakeholders in terms of students, alumni, boards. As decarbonization became more important, I've found for the first time in my career that's on equal footing with financials.
Just let me amplify what you said. The framework of the business case has changed. Now, the business case also includes what happens if we don't change and decarbonize. We're going to lose orders. Our revenue will decrease.
Yes, which completely changes the calculus of looking at these decarbonization or energy efficiency projects. Essentially, it's the equivalent of saying there is a cost of carbon emissions, and we're going to include it in our analysis.
I want you to react to the following scenario for me. 30 years ago, companies in-house IT work. They had servers, they had professionals who with excellence would worry about firmware upgrades and bandwidths. Do you think we're possibly at that moment where as companies then shifted from internal to the cloud, that some of that might be happening with energy as a service?
I do. Companies have competing capital needs, and very few are looking to investing their capital in energy infrastructure. So that's one driver. And I think secondly, it's the expertise, right? It's the decision of an enterprise to focus their resources, financial and operational, on their core mission, which may be taking care of patients, maybe educating students, maybe providing services to the broader community as a government, and are making the decision that they don't need to be in the energy infrastructure business.
In the bucket of myth, is it a myth to think deferred maintenance is a successful strategy over time?
I think that is very much in the category of myth. The overwhelming majority of customers that we speak with and end up working for find themselves in a place where deferred maintenance has grown significantly. We get engaged more to solve deferred maintenance than we do to solve energy efficiency or decarbonization, mostly because it's always easier to invest in a new academic building or an MRI machine, and it's less likely to receive donor financing of behind the wall assets. So yes, those assets every day are older than they were yesterday.
This is a spicy question. With other financing structures available beyond CapEx and project financing that looks like debt, there's a little bit what Metris does as a service. I know it's a solution or a pathway that you like to illuminate. Do you think it's well understood?
No, the biggest challenge with that type of offering is the education phase. Metris and 10 go out and educate people on the world of possibilities. It's not that it's been around a year or two, it's been around for a decade or more, but truthfully working with folks to really understand what that looks like begins with education, and it is not widely known or widely understood.
I think there's a whole package of myths that sit around energy as a service that have to be debunked.
You're right, and that's a challenge. We're oftentimes relying on people that don't understand it well to communicate the message up to the ultimate decision maker. So of paramount importance is for companies like Metris and 10 to actually get the audience with the appropriate stakeholders and decision makers to communicate those attributes.
Another myth that I experienced is that projects will take 12 to 18 months, which is so, but in an 18-month project cycle, I think at least half of that is waiting.
You're 100% right. And if only you can find the client or customer that is as motivated as we are, I think you can take that 12 months and you could make it 6 months.
From the beginning, I said it's about change management. When we start a process, I like to forecast what the experience is going to be. Here's what the engineering piece will look like. Here's what the financing piece will look like. Here's what the contracting and legal pieces will look like. And forecasting for customers what that journey is, it helps them start to set up their own decision making.
Yes, if you can forecast that timeline for them, you also create realistic expectations so that nobody has false expectations of how this is going to move forward.
So now we have stakeholders who are thinking about decarbonization in a way that's weighted equally with their core business's direct performance. We have institutional money that Metris and others can provide. There are contracting structures. There's elite ESCOs like yourself out there. So some amazing things are coming together as a confluence. Are there technologies, wonders, that you're watching out or predicting 5 or 10 years will also be in the solution sets?
I think the future for many of these client organizations are heat pumps. The number one source of greenhouse gas emissions for most institutions is stationary combustion. It is combusting fossil fuel to heat a building or series of buildings. And the ability to electrify that by using heat pumps and replace steam with low temperature hot water, that is the future, in my opinion. The Inflation Reduction Act is incentivizing people to take that action. And anyone that is looking at both central plants and distributed systems has to be adding that into their analysis now.
Is 10 starting to build capabilities around being able to engineer and deploy heat pumps?
Yeah, a combination of building capabilities and sourcing consulting engineering firms that have the most experience in deploying that technology in the US.
Is the technology around heat pumps evolving, that they work in the colder climates as well?
Absolutely. And that's the big thing, right? There was a time when it was understood that you would need a different solution in colder climates. They've actually solved that problem. And the Inflation Reduction Act even allows for 75% of the energy to be provided with ground source, which essentially says that you can install capabilities to handle the coldest of design days in colder climates and still be eligible to receive that funding.
I appreciate your insights around some of the truths and myths and wonders. I'm going to hit you with a couple questions that are about Randy Clark. So here we go, a little round robin here. What is your guilty pleasure meal?
It's chicken wings, but as spicy as they come. I always seek those out wherever I go.
Have you ever been to a place where you're only eating two because they're so hot? I feel like there's a famous place in Pittsburgh that has this.
There's a place called Fatheads in Pittsburgh that makes you sign a waiver and you can only order 5 at a time. And yes, there are certainly times where the folks that make them win and I can no longer digest them.
Have you signed such a waiver ever in your life?
I have.
What is your happiest place on earth?
I would tell you that standing at the back bowls of Vail, looking at that and how vast and overwhelming it is, best place to be.
Which is more likely to be in your hand, pen or pencil?
I can't tell you the last time I used a pencil. And it doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. It simply means for some reason, I always have a pen in my hand.
Randy Clark claims he never makes a mistake right here on this podcast. If you're on a plane with me, are you more likely to be on the window or aisle?
I'm an aisle seat guy every day.
What's the first car that was Randy's car?
1979 Jeep CJ5 that spent more time being repaired than it did actually working.
What is the last social media app that you were on?
I guess I did a LinkedIn post this morning.
Do you recall the last time you bought a physical book?
I don't recall the last time I bought a physical book, but I received one for my kids for Christmas. So I guess maybe that counts since they purchased, but I was the benefactor of.
All right. Well, Randy, it's been informative and inspiring to hang out with you. You said a couple of things to me that I'm either going to write down as a prediction or just remember. One, no one gets fired for doing nothing. And I think that's a challenge or an opportunity we all face. You're highlighting the application and use cases around heat pumps and different ways, stakeholders and structures that the mid-market can be addressed. You built a business case when you joined 10. Are these some of the elements that you highlighted to the leadership and your owners?
10 is a very strong performance contracting organization, and performance contracting is a large solution in the energy efficiency, energy services space, but it's not the only solution. So the idea with my arrival at 10 is to be able to deliver any solution to solve energy efficiency and infrastructure issues that a customer may desire, whether that be performance contracting as a service, energy service agreements, power purchase agreements, whatever that may be. We want to have the expertise and experience at delivering that full toolbox to the customer.
Randy, you work for an institution that's a leader. You join them to help expand a business line. What motivates you? Like, what truly gets you excited? And in 5 years, do you hope to create with them and customers?
Two things, really. One, what gets me excited is the ability to be back working with customers directly on projects that will change their environment, whether that's an airport, a campus, a hospital, whatever that is, that will have meaningful change. And then it's funny, I don't know that I would have said this going into it, but I get almost as excited now mentoring the younger folks that are in the first half of their career in this business and preparing them to lead the business.
What I heard there was the word creating, some version of creating and being expansive. And I've watched you try to build those capabilities so that others can carry on and continue to expand things. Randy Clark from the Efficiency Network, thanks for joining our Power Down podcast. Take care.
Thanks for having me, Bill, and I enjoyed it.
Thank you for tuning into Power Down, Truths, Myths, and Wonders of Decarbonization, where my guest and I aim to illuminate pathways for businesses and institutions who strive for efficiency, resilience, and sustainability. We offer insights that demystify the complexities of energy management and celebrate the innovations driving us towards a net zero future. Please follow us on all your streaming platforms. In the meantime, stay engaged, stay curious, and join us next time as we power down to power forward.